Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
Welcome to Caribbean Perspective. So glad you can join us. The story that takes the lead in today's edition for Wednesday 29th May 2024 and brought to you in association with our friends at Antillian Group. Panday's Patriotic Front will field a full slate of candidates for 2025 Trinidad and Tobago elections. Details after this important message.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all, perils big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back. The upcoming 2025 general election in Trinidad and Tobago will see a third party competing in all 41 constituencies, the Patriotic Front. More in this TV6 News item.
A lot of people are asking me to come back. And I tell them, how you mean come back? I never left.
Starting the evening off with a tribute to her late father, former Prime Minister Bastio Panday, political leader of the Patriotic Front, Michaela Panday, revealed on Saturday night that her party will contest every seat at the next general election.
On Monday, 27th of May, 2024, we will be opening nominations for the upcoming general elections for those who seek to be candidates. The Patriotic Front will be contesting 41 constituencies.
She says she feels the time is right, and if anyone else truly wants to see a change in the country, it must first begin with themselves.
To those afraid of change, my father used to say, there is nothing too fair but fear itself. It does not matter what school you went to, whether you have a skill set or degree, or what economic or racial background you come from. If you want better for yourself and your country, you have a home in the Patriotic Front.
Panday called on the youth to step forward, encouraging fresh faces. She says there is desperate need for reform on many fronts and outlined areas she plans to target.
We need only look to our neighboring countries to see how many opportunities we have lost economically because we have been short-sighted to close down industries rather than fix them. The Patriotic Front believes in building and not destroying, and so is committed to engaging with all the workers, trade unions, and relevant stakeholders to rectify what has been deemed economically and socially irresponsible decisions.
On Saturday, Panday officially opened her party's South Regional office at Twin Walls, San Fernando, signaling her readiness to begin campaigning for the next general election. Cindy Raghupatika Singh, TV6 News.
An international ocean tribunal has delivered a historic legal victory for small island nations. Zane Romulus of the DBS News World reports.
The International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, ITLOS, a UN court on maritime law, found that greenhouse gas emissions can be considered a marine pollutant. It said countries have a legal obligation to implement measures mitigating their effect on oceans. ITLOS's expert opinion was sought in September by a coalition of 9 small island Pacific and Caribbean states, including St. Lucia, which are threatened by rising sea levels. Sharing his thoughts on the legal victory, Managing Director of Soloricon and former Sustainable Development Minister James Fletcher says that any battle won in the international courts where climate change is concerned is an important one.
We've always made the point that while climate change is a matter that continues to be debated within the fora of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and the Paris Agreement, but there are very serious human rights issues at play here because the people who have not contributed or have least contributed to climate change are the ones who are most impacted by climate change. So there's a climate justice element in there that has to be addressed. And in fact, 2 years ago, the United Nations agreed that the right to a clean and healthy and sustainable environment is a human right. So, all of that sets the basis for the decision by the International Tribunal on the Law of the Sea.
The legal opinion of the International Ocean Tribunal marked a critical step forward in international environmental law and the protection of the oceans. ITLAW established that to protect and preserve the marine environment, countries must keep temperature rise to no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius. It also found that countries that fail to meet those obligations could be held liable. Fletcher stressed the need for litigation so that countries and companies that are at the heart of the climate problem could be held accountable.
Every single victory that we notch up in the international courts is an important one because I think it's a very important tool in our arsenal to deal with climate change. We will get only so far with the negotiations process. We've had COPs going on. We have COP29 right now. So it means that every year for 29 years, we've been assembling in some part of the world to discuss climate change and to agree on what has to happen where climate change is concerned. But the progress that we're making in the negotiations, although significant, is not keeping pace with the explosion of climate impact we're seeing all around it.
The recent landmark win sets the stage for another important legal dispute in the world's highest court. The United Nations General Assembly has requested the International Court of Justice to outline the responsibilities of nations in addressing climate change. This legal ruling could compel countries to implement more robust measures and provide clarity on international law. For the DBS News World, I am Zin Romulus.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick,
in association with our friends at
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Setting the record straight. This was the aim of an international virtual conference held by Venezuela's Vice President Delcy Rodriguez in preparation for the country's next presidential elections, scheduled for July 28th. More in this TTT News report.
The regime in charge of Venezuela now holds the view that many of the country's problems will be solved by the next elections. According to Venezuelan ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago, Alvaro Enrique Sanchez Cordero, the Venezuelan economy has recently demonstrated signs of improvement as it continues to gradually recover from its most recent economic crisis.
Last year we grew over 15%, and this year we're expected to grow around 8%. And because of these economic improvements, many Venezuelans, something like over 1 million Venezuelans who were abroad, are actually returning to Venezuela. So you can see the correlation between the economic stability and the levels of Venezuelan migrants.
Venezuelans have been commended by Vice President Rodriguez for their continued resilience and dedication.
Freshly revealed United Patriots slate has sent a stern warning to the status quo of the United National Congress, UNC. Either accept the winds of change or face the impending storm. At a packed Signature Hall on Saturday evening, Panday revealed his slate for the internal elections, a team he believes will return the party to government. CNC3's Akash Samaru brings us more.
They certainly came out swinging.
We now have the weakest opposition we have ever had in this country.
Sending a stern warning to their competitors.
And they can either go gently in the breeze or they can find themselves in a storm, but it is up to them.
Questioning why the UNC has become so fragmented.
Anytime you say something in the UNC and they disagree, they call it a PNM. The UNC has made more PNM members for the PNM than Chief Rowley.
Losing genuine talent for perennial loyalists.
Kevin Ramnarain, Bo Tiwari, the late Fazal Karim, God rest his soul, Fuad Khan and Vasan Bharat were and have been excluded from the party.
Even with the nomination still yet to be approved, they're even suggesting constitutional change.
My very first recommendation to the NATEX would be to have
a fixed date for internal elections.
But the leader of the slate cooled the temperature and took a more diplomatic approach, underscoring,
"The political enemies, the PNM, not the UNC, not my colleagues."
Even though hours before he was sent a scathing letter from his political leader, Parry maintained,
"But I don't respond to harsh words. I'm a local boy. I grew up in Mayaro."
He did not vehemently criticize the NATEX incumbents, but instead told members of the slate what sort of conduct he expects from them.
"You are here to work, not to look good. We will not behave like we are star boys and star girls."
In what he called a pivotal moment, which coincided with the late Basdeo Panday's birthday, he vowed to return the party to government. The Mara MP even repeated his promise of finding a headquarters for the party that actually belongs to the UNC, even though he did have some questions about why they're still renting.
"We've done a set of fundraisers over the last 9 years for headquarters. Where the money?"
In the coming weeks, the Patriots said they will be hosting meetings across the country in the lead-up to the June 15th election. Akash Samaru, CNC3 News.
The Jamaica government still is optimistic despite stalemate in constitutional reform process. Details in this TVJ News report.
Opposition leader Mark Golding at a press conference earlier this month.
"In my view, the entire reform process has been flawed.
And that has been his view ever since. It's been over a week since the opposition declared it will not be signing off on the constitutional reform report, leaving the process at a stalemate. But Prime Minister Andrew Holness is still optimistic.
I don't see this as a failure or an end to the process. I see this as part of the process. And my job is to make it possible to work towards consensus.
The impasse has led to a public political tug-of-war. The revelation of the opposition leader's British citizenship now a main part of the discussion.
As to sit in the Jamaican Parliament, you should have a single allegiance.
Mr. Holness continues to question what he says is the opposition's sudden U-turn on the phased approach to the constitutional reform process.
It was an idea that was supported by the opposition at the time. In fact, the position of the opposition then was that there is agreement and therefore the government should go ahead. In fact, the view was, as expressed in letters to the Minister of Constitutional Reform from the leader of the opposition, is that we don't need to establish a committee to review the work that was done before on the move towards reforming our Constitution and becoming a republic. We should just go ahead and do it.
The Prime Minister says before now he deliberately remained silent on the matter.
I wouldn't want any views that I may express be used as an excuse not to participate. So I left it up to those persons who were appointed to review, and they will tell you that they were able to do their job without any political interference. My views did not influence their views whatsoever.
It's left to be seen if the government and opposition will arrive at a common ground to determine the governance architecture of the country. Amoy Harriet, TVJ News.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean.
In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's a service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.